Like we discussed what are the drawbacks of dedicated or physical data center, on-premises data center. What are the challenges and drawbacks? To maintain the data center, on-premises or physical data center, we need a dedicated space, 5,000, 10,000 square feet. We need a high bandwidth, redundant power supply, continuous power supply, backup, support availability. We need a voice support, database support, application support, monitoring team, capacity planning, higher maintenance effort, time consuming, takes a lot of time to build this infrastructure, and leadership experience. These are the challenges, drawbacks of physical data center. So we can't start this data center within 1 month. It will take minimum 1 year. So who are the cloud service providers? AWS, Amazon Web Services, GCP, Google Cloud, Azure Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and IBM Cloud. There are many more cloud services, but more famous are AWS, GCP, and Azure, and Salesforce. Types of cloud computing we discussed earlier: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. We also discussed in the first class what is public cloud and multi-cloud. What is public cloud? Public cloud are operated by the third party. Public means third party. AWS, Azure, all these are third party vendors which deliver the computing resources. The meaning of computing resources like servers, storage, network switches, routers over the internet. I told you last class, in AWS cloud, Azure cloud, or any cloud, everything is a service. Everything is a service. RAM is a service. Monitor is a service. Hard disk is a service. So everything is service. So we are able to access these services, resources over the internet. That is called public. So with the public cloud, all hardware, software, other support infrastructure is owned and managed by the cloud service provider. Whatever you want hardware, you want software, everything is managed by third-party vendor. That is called cloud service provider. You can access these services and manage your account by using web browser. We have seen earlier how to log into the AWS console, how to launch EC2 instance nothing but a server. That is called web browser. That is called as a web browser, which is called API, Application Program Interface. But the AWS, they also provided CLI, Command Line Interface. You want to create any resources in AWS Cloud, we can go for web browser, which provides graphical based API, and also we have option called command line. We'll discuss both graphical mode and command line. Private cloud. Every company, they have their own private cloud. Refers cloud computing resources used exclusively by a single business or organization. Private cloud can be physically located on company's on-site data center. Every company, they have their own private cloud. We can go there. We can see the servers, storage, switches, all the infrastructure. That is called physically available. Private cloud is physically available. Then hybrid cloud. So hybrid means the combination of public and private, bonds together by technology that allows data and application to be shared between them. We discussed earlier, every user information will have a private and public. Every user information have a public and private. Your Aadhaar card, your phone, your mobile number, your home address, everything is private. All this information will be stored in the private cloud. How much EMI sanction for you? That is also private. What is the what information will be public? What is the rate of interest? What is the rate of interest will be public? Anyone can see that. Remaining all the information are private. That is called hybrid cloud. So Every company, they're going to maintain both public and private. This is the one of the example for hybrid cloud. So as we discussed earlier, your data will be stored in the database, like your user information, how much amount you have, everything will be stored in the database. This database will be configured in a private cloud. We never configure database on the public cloud. Then how you are able to access your data with the help of this application server Tomcat. Tomcat is application server. It's a web browser. With the help of this web browser, you are able to access your data, the data in the private cloud. You log into the gmail.com, yahoo.com with the help of this browser Tomcat, which is configured in public cloud. But after login as a user, you're able to see how much amount you have, where the data is in the private cloud. So data never keep in the public. Database always keep in the private cloud. If you're learning DevOps, we'll see that how to access your application, how to access your data from public cloud, from Tomcat server. Theory and practical both. It is a job of the DevOps. Roles and responsibilities are DevOps. But as a cloud admin, we'll discuss about how to configure a web server, not the application server. Application server we discuss in the DevOps. How to configure web server, how to integrate this web server with database server. So for that, we have a services, AWS direct connection, AWS site to site, which is called VPN, virtual private cloud, AWS transit gateway. With the help of these services, we are able to integrate public cloud with private cloud. So if you are going with 3 to 4 years experience on AWS cloud, you need to have knowledge, experience on these services. The real time, companies always use hybrid cloud. Every company they use hybrid cloud. There are some database server which is configured in public cloud. I told you that every user has a private information, public information. The private information will be stored in the private cloud, database in the private cloud. The public information will be stored, the database on the public cloud, maybe MongoDB, MySQLDB, DynamoDB. So this is the combination of both public and private, which is called hybrid cloud. Multi-cloud. Multi-cloud means what? The company that are using AWS and also using Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. Tomorrow got a job in IBM as a cloud admin, AWS, but they have a Azure, they have a requirement on Azure admin, they have a requirement on Google. That means what? Every company they're using multi-cloud. Some services they're hosted on AWS, some services are hosted on Azure, some services are hosted on Google Cloud. I don't think there's no company without only AWS. They're using multi-cloud. Cloud service models. Cloud service model we discussed earlier, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. What is this infrastructure as a service? Generally, you want to start your data center, what are required? I need a network, I need a storage, virtualization. I'll explain you later what is this virtualization. I need operating system, I need a middleware. We discuss about what is middleware, WebLogic, WebSphere. I need a runtime software and data. And on top of that, application. Everything you have to maintain. Everything you have to maintain. This is called on-premises. If you go for a cloud, the first service model is infrastructure as a service. What is infrastructure here? Your storage, server, virtualization, networking. This is called as infrastructure. Who are going to maintain this infrastructure? By the cloud service provider. Infrastructure is going to maintain by the cloud service provider. What you are going to maintain? You are going to maintain operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and application. Suppose I float one company. So I need a data center. To start the data center, I need to purchase all the infrastructure. It is very, very expensive. Why should I buy the one? Why should I buy the infrastructure? Expensive for organization. I lost AWS cloud. I need this infrastructure. Please provide that infrastructure. They're going to give you storage that is called EBS volume. They'll give the server that is called instances, virtualization, switches and routers. So this infrastructure they're going to give you. Your job is install the operating system. On top of that, install application middleware, WebLogic or WebSphere. On top of that, install the runtime software. On top of that, install the database. On top of that, deploy your application. So this is maintained by you, customer. This is maintained by the customer, and the infrastructure is maintained by the AWS cloud. This is called infrastructure as a service. What is the advantage here? I don't need to take any like 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet area because I'm not going to keep any infrastructure. Everything I'm taking from AWS cloud. Then I'm going to install the operating system, everything on top of that. So this is called infrastructure as a service. Next, platform. Platform means what? Apart from infrastructure, they're going to provide you operating system also. Operating system, middleware, runtime software. Your job is only install the database. On top of that, deploy your application. These two are maintained by the vendor, not vendor, by the customer. These are maintained by the customer. So application database, remaining everything managed by your cloud service provider. Everything managed by the cloud service provider. So you ask the cloud service provider, I need a platform. When you ask that I need a platform, they're going to provide the hardware infrastructure, they're going to provide the operating system. We discussed earlier how to launch Linux instance. That instance nothing but a server. Apart from the instance, they provided virtualization software. Apart from that, they provide the storage. Apart from that, they provide the networking. Operating system is pre-installed. You middleware runtime also they're going to provide. You just deploy a database and application. This is called platform as a service. Then finally, software as a service. In software as a service, everything is maintained by your cloud service provider. Everything is maintained by the cloud service provider. For example, I'm a DevOps engineer. When I'm a DevOps engineer, there's a tool called GitHub server. Am I audible, everyone? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a DevOps engineer. There's a tool called GitHub. What is GitHub? GitHub is the source code management tool. GitHub is the source code management tool. What is the meaning of source code management? What is the meaning of source code management? Developers who are working for the project, for that application, these developers, they can share the source code. If there are 5 developers who work on one project, and these developers, they want to share the source code. If I'm a developer, my code is in my laptop. If you are the developer, your code is your laptop. You want to access my code, I want to access your code. How do we access? I can share through Google Drive. Upload to the Google Drive, through Google Drive, we can share it. But Google Drive is a public. Google Drive is a public. Anyone can access. No security for the source code. That's why the real time we are going to set up a tool called GitHub. What is this tool we call SCM? SCM stands source code management tool. SCM stands source code management tool. So as a DevOps engineer, your job is take a Windows server or Linux server. Either Windows or Linux server. Install the GitHub software. Install operating system first. Take a server, install the operating system. Assume that this is your hardware. On top of the hardware, install the operating system. On top of the operating system, install the GitHub software. OS installation take 1 hour, and GitHub installation software, configure everything, it will take 1 hour. You need to spend 2 hours. And you have to purchase this hardware. You have to purchase this server. Rather than that, go to browser, open the Google Chrome, type github.com. github.com. So this is the GitHub server. Where it is in the cloud. This server is in the cloud. So you can deploy your application, you can share the source code with the help of this GitHub server. So here I create the repositories. This is my source code. So where this GitHub is configured in a public cloud. Did I install operating system? Did I purchase the server? Did I install operating system? Did I install the GitHub software? No, right? Everything is ready-made. This is called example for software as a service. So create the account in the GitHub server. Create the account in the GitHub server. You can push your code. All these are code to the GitHub server. This is the code URL. If anyone want to work on my same code, I'll share this URL. Share this URL. With this URL, they can download the source code. So this is the best example for software as a service. Everything is provided by your cloud service provider. So if I go for platform as a service, or if I go for software as a service, I need to take 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. But if I go for software as a service, if I go for software as a service, I don't require to take 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. I can start my work from my home. Just create the account in AWS. I need to have one internet connection and laptop. You have a laptop, net connection, you create the account in AWS, everything we can take from AWS, cloud service provider. That is called software as a service. No infrastructure required, no premises required. We can start your business from your home. That is the advantage of software as a service. The next topic is virtualization. Virtualization is very, very important key role in AWS cloud. Not only AWS cloud, any cloud. In any cloud, virtualization is very, very important. So what is this virtualization? So 10 years back, 15 years back, we don't have virtualization concept. Assume that there is no virtualization and you want to practice Windows Server, Windows operating system. You want to work on Windows, you want to practice Windows, and you want to work on Linux, or you want to practice Linux, both. So generally for Windows, we are going to purchase one laptop or desktop. This laptop desktop, we are going to install operating system Windows. He can work, he can practice Windows. But tomorrow, I want to work on Linux. Already we have Windows operating system. If you install Linux on top of this, on the same laptop, what will happen? Linux will override Windows. It is going to corrupt Windows operating system, install Linux. So Windows will corrupt. It install Linux. So I can access only, I can boot only Linux. I can't able to Windows. So in a single disk, will install only one operating system. You can't install more than one OS in a single hard disk. In that case, what I need to do? I need to purchase two laptops. I need to purchase two laptops or two desktops. So that one for Windows, I'll install Windows in the laptop, and one for Linux. So my problem is solved. So two laptops you have to maintain, one for Windows, one for Linux. The problem is solved. But what's the disadvantage here? CapEx, capital expenditure. Means what? I need to invest 50,000 for this laptop and 50,000 for this laptop. So I have to invest 1 lakh rupees. Instead of that, you have a server laptop, you purchase a laptop with 500 GB hard disk, 1 TB hard disk, 500 GB or 1 TB hard disk. Assume that this is my hard disk, 500 GB or 1 TB. This hard disk, I'm going to make 2 physical partitions. Maximum we can create 4 physical partitions, that we'll discuss later. Maximum we can create 4 physical partitions, that we'll discuss later. But as of now, I'm going to create 2 physical partitions. Any hard disk, irrespective of the storage, we can create maximum 4 physical. That concept we'll discuss later. But for today class, we are discussing only two partitions. Create 2 physical partition. Then, in the first physical partition, install Windows operating system. In the second physical partition, install Linux operating system. You have 500 GB, make it 300 GB, 200 GB, or 250 GB, 250 GB, as you wish. Make it 2 physical partition. In the first physical partition, install Windows. Second physical partition, install Linux. At the time of booting, if you install more than one operating system in a single disk, while booting, we'll see the interface asking that, do you want to boot from Red Hat Linux or do you want to boot from Windows? At the time of booting, we'll see the interface asking that from which operating system you want to boot or from which kernel you want to boot. Do you want to boot from Linux or do you want to boot from Windows? By default, your cursor is at Red Hat Linux. It waits for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, if no input is provided by the user, after 5 seconds, boot from Linux. You want to change your mind, you want to boot from Windows, move the cursor to Windows, press enter, it will boot from Windows. That is the advantage of creating more than one physical partition. The purpose of creating more than one physical partition, we are able to install multiple operating systems in a single disk. So what's the advantage? Rather than going for separate laptop, separate desktop, one laptop, one desktop, we can install both Windows and Linux. So this is called as a virtualization. What virtualization it is called? Traditional virtualization. Virtualization is the backbone of cloud. So what do you call this? Traditional virtualization. Why it is called virtualization? Physically only one laptop, physically only one server, but acting as a Windows server, acting as a Linux server. Like 20 years, 15 years back, when I'm taking Windows and Linux classes, at that time there was no virtualization. So created 2 physical partition. While taking Windows class, I'll boot from Windows. While taking Linux class, I'll boot from Linux. End user, what they feel that I have two laptop or two desktops. If they don't know about this virtualization, they feel that I have two laptop or desktop. Simple example for this: 10 years back, 15 years back, we don't have a smart mobile. We used to use basic mobile. We used to use the basic mobile. You want to use the two mobile number, then I need to purchase two mobiles. You want to use the two numbers, need to purchase two mobiles. Why? Because we don't have a dual SIM option. We don't have a dual SIM option. Instead of that, purchase only one mobile. You have a dual SIM option. What is the advantage? Rather than spending two mobiles, purchase only one mobile with dual SIM option. That is called as a virtualization. Physically only one, but acting as a two. So physically only one laptop, but acting as a Windows server, acting as a Linux server. So this is called as a traditional virtualization. Can anyone tell what is the disadvantage of traditional virtualization? Advantages we discussed. What is the disadvantage? Anyone? Hmm? Simultaneously, we can't boot Windows and Linux at a time. If I'm in Windows, I can't able to see Linux. If I'm in Linux, I can't able to see Windows. So simultaneously, we can't able to boot both the operating system. That is one disadvantage. Like if you have if you have a mobile with dual SIM, only one number will be active. We can't dial both the numbers at a time. Similarly, we can't able to boot both the operating system at a time. And the problem and the disadvantage, for example, my laptop compute capacity. What's the meaning of compute capacity? RAM and processor. RAM and processor we call compute capacity. In the cloud, AWS Azure cloud, we call as compute capacity. Meaning of compute capacity, RAM and processor. So my laptop compute capacity is 16 GB RAM, 1 CPU. I purchased a laptop with 16 GB RAM and install Windows and Linux in the same hard disk, dual booting. So when I'm booting from Windows, I have 16 GB RAM, but how much memory I'm using? 1 GB, max I can use only 2 GB. If I install any application or database, maximum I'm using 2 GB. The remaining 14 GB is wasted. Again, reboot the system, boot from Linux. Even Linux also, max I'm using 2 GB. The remaining 14 GB is wasted. There's a problem with the traditional virtualization, wastage of your hardware resource. So what is the purpose of purchasing 16 GB RAM laptop with 60,000, 70,000? You can go for 2 GB RAM, 4 GB RAM. Because I'm not able to use that entire RAM. This is the problem with the traditional virtualization. Another problem with the traditional virtualization, you have a server. Let us say you are the DevOps engineer. So this is your hardware. On top of the hardware, you install the operating system, either Windows or Linux, whatever. So you are the DevOps engineer. Tomorrow, they ask you to configure, Tomcat server. What is Tomcat? Application server. They ask to configure GitHub server, source code management tool. They ask to configure, not a GitHub, SonarQube, source code analyzer. SonarQube is a source code analyzer to check the quality of the source code. Maven is a build tool. They ask to configure this Tomcat, SonarQube, and Maven. So can I configure all these tools in one physical server? Yes, we can configure. We can configure all these tools in a one physical server. But the problem here is Tomcat required Java version. Tomcat required Java version 1.8. So I install the Java first. I install the Java. On top of that, I install the Tomcat. So which version Java I installed? 1.8. Then I install the Tomcat. Later, I'm going to configure SonarQube on the same server. SonarQube required Java version 11. Already I have 1.8. SonarQube required Java version 11. 11 is a higher end version. So if I install Java 11, what happens? It is going to override Java 1.8. In that case, will my Tomcat will work? No, right? Because of compatible. Tomcat requires Java 1.8. I install Java 11. It overrides the 1.8. 11 is installed. When 11 is installed, SonarQube will work, but Tomcat doesn't work. These are the problem challenges if you are going to configure in one physical server more than one tool. So these are the problems with the traditional virtualization. That's why a company called VMware, they developed two softwares. One is VMware Workstation. The other one is VMware Server. This VMware Server, we call it as EXXI. So VMware developed two softwares, VMware Workstation and VMware Server. Oh, good morning. 11 o'clock. Linux administration, RAM technology. RAM technology. Online వస్తారా సరే ఓకే లింక్ షేర్ చేస్తాను So VMware Workstation and VMware Server. Like in Microsoft, in Windows we have a client software and server software, right? Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, all these are client software. Windows 2012, 2012, 2016, 2019, these are server software, server operating system. Similarly, VMware has two softwares. One is called client, that is called Workstation. The other one we call as a server. So let us see the difference between Workstation and server. Take a laptop or desktop. So this is your laptop. You have a hardware, RAM, CPU, processor, everything. On top of this, install operating system, either Windows or Linux or Mac OS. Mac OS also Linux family. To install the operating system. On top of this, on top of the Windows operating system, install VMware Workstation software. Install VMware Workstation. On top of this, create a virtual machine. On top of this, create a VM. VM stands virtual machine. Generally, why it is called virtual machine? Generally, you won't install any operating system. What are the hardware components you require? What are the hardware components you require? I need a memory, processor, hard disk, DVD, network card, USB, sound card, display, monitor. They are the hardware components you require for installation of operating system. Where this hardware is physically in your laptop. This hardware is physically in your laptop. With the help of this VMware software, whatever hardware physically available in your laptop, that hardware you are going to virtualize. That means what? Virtual memory, virtual processor, virtual disk, virtual DVD, virtual network card, everything is a virtual. That's why it is called as a virtual machine. So whatever install operating system, whatever hardware you require, everything created one virtual machine. On top of this, now this is called VM virtual. On top of this, I install the Linux. So what hardware it is called? Virtual hardware. That's why it is called virtual machine. On top of this, install Linux. Similarly, as I told you that I want to set up Tomcat, SonarCube, Maven. So one VM for Tomcat, one VM for Maven, one VM for SonarCube. If you want, you can install Windows as well. In this virtual machine, you can also install Windows, not only Linux. Assume that here I have 16 GB RAM. My laptop having 16 GB RAM. 4 GB is allocated for this VM. For this VM, allocated 4 GB. For this VM, allocated 4 GB. So there is no wastage of your hardware resources. But if you allocate 4 GB, 4 GB, 4 GB, how many VMs I can create? Not more than 4. Now how I create this many VMs in my lab? Why? Because whatever the hardware resources allocated for this VM, these hardware resources going to use only when the VM is up and running. If I shut down that VM, this memory is released. The processor which is allocated is released. This memory processor I can use for another virtual machine. So there is no wastage of your hardware resources. So whatever the hardware you allocated for the virtual machine, this hardware will be used only when the VM is up and running. You see here SonarCube, Maven, Nexus, Tomcat, Jenkins, Nexus, number of VMs I created. So there's no problem with the version compatible. No problem with the version compatible. Java, SonarCube required Java 1.8. I install 1.8 here. Tomcat required 11. I install 11 here. So there is no version compatible. Another advantage, without shutting down, without rebooting, we are able to work more than we are able to work all the VMs simultaneously. All the VMs simultaneously. So this is called VMware Workstation. But in real time, the companies always use VMware servers. Even cloud, AWS, Azure, GCP, they are not going to use VMware workstation. They are going to use server. So what is the server?
For extreme situations. Sir, one question.
Yeah, tell me.
So, can you go back to that previous screens?
Yeah.
So, if we have like multiple virtual machines running, right? So at that time, the memory will be shared. I mean, 4G memory will be shared with all other virtual machines.
So whatever the memory processor we allocated, it won't be shared with other VM. This memory is dedicated for it.
Okay, I
Tomorrow,
mean, you said 16 GB RAM if we have in our laptop. So if we have like so many virtual machines, so and all those are like running simultaneously.
that's what I'm telling. Assume that I have 16 GB RAM. 1 GB is used for base operating system Windows. Now we have only 15 GB left, right? If I on all these virtual machines, I can't able to on all these virtual machines. Why? Because every VM allocated 4 GB. So how many VMs I can launch? I can start not more than 4. If you are starting more than 4, that gives the errors called memory allocation error. So in that case,
Based on
what I told you that whenever I shut down this 4 GB is released. This 4 GB is consumed only when the VM is up and running. If I shut down this VM, this 4 GB is released. So don't think that this 4 GB is dedicated for this. Now this is released. I can decrease this memory. Click on here. Make it 204, 2049.
okay, here it will show like a recommended memory.
Yes. So like that,
1 GB
we
use.
can reduce your memory. So don't think that this 4 GB is dedicated for this. This 4 GB is consumed only when the VM is up and running. If I shut down it, this 4 GB is released. This 4 GB I can use for any other virtual machine. That's what the advantage of virtual VMware virtualization. What is the advantage? There is no wastage of your hardware resource.
Okay, let's suppose if we, I mean, as you said, if we have like 16 GB, only the maximum 4 virtual machines we can run.
Yeah, we can run only maximum for virtual machine.
Based on RAM,
that's why run. Okay. I allocated some VMs 2 GB, some VMs this is only 2 GB. But I can't start all the VMs at a time because I have only 16. Max I can run only 4 VMs at a time.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So this is about VMware workstation. Now coming to the VMware server, which we are going to use in the real time. So this is your hardware. On top of that, install VMware server, which is called ESXi. What is ESXi? It is called kernel. What do you mean by kernel? Kernel is nothing but operating system. Kernel is nothing but operating system. What I mean to say, VMware has their own kernel, like Windows or Linux. Windows, Linux also a kernel, operating system. VMware has their own kernel which runs directly on top of the hardware. directly on top of the hardware. Now we can create a number of virtual machines. Can anyone tell the difference between this VMware workstation and VMware server? Any difference here? Hmm? Any difference between VMware workstation, VMware server? No difference. Here, VMware workstation is a software which need operating system. Means what? It's an application. VMware workstation application like Google Chrome. Whenever you want to install a software, I need operating system, right? So without operating system, I can't install this VMware. So this is called application. Application required a operating system. Whereas here, it is not an application, it's an operating system like Windows and Linux. So VMware has their own OS operating system, their own kernel like Android. Android is a kernel. Android is operating system. iOS, iPhone operating system. So Android, iOS, whatever software we are using for mobile, those are called operating system, which runs on top of the hardware. Similarly, VMware has their own kernel, their own operating system. Directly, we can install on top of the hardware. It has application, and this is called operating system. There is a difference. Another difference is VMware workstation has a limitation, but whereas VMware server EXX doesn't have any limitation. For example, here my server is up and running. Let us say my Tomcat server is up and running. So I want to decrease the memory, RAM or processor. When the VM is up and running, we can't able to increase or decrease the RAM. We have to shut down it, then increase the RAM, decrease the RAM, processor, shut down it, make the change. On running server, we can't do that. If I shut down my VM, that means what? Downtime to my application, downtime to the end user. But whereas if it is a VMware server, we never shut down. Without shutting down, we are able to increase our hardware. This is called one of the feature in AWS. What is that? We discussed earlier. Elasticity. What is the meaning of elasticity? Increase our hardware, RAM, processor without shutting down. Scale in and scale out. Scale in and scale out. Increase in, decrease of hardware without shutting down. This is called AWS. We call elasticity. Or we also call vertical scaling. Elasticity or vertical scale. Okay, so no downtime here. Are the advantage of this VMware server? In fact, 10 years back, I worked on this VMware. At that time, it was 3.0 version, 3.0, 4.0 version. I think today is the 11 version. I don't know the 11 version features, but I'm talking about the older version. So it was 3.0 in one physical server where we can create 250 virtual machines. In one physical server, we can create 250 virtual machines. 250 VMs. Don't think that it is not a server. VM is also a server. Each VM is a server. Because I install the Windows Server operating system or I install Linux operating system, Linux is nothing but a server. Assume that here I have a VM. virtual machine, it is running up and running. What is the IP address for this? Take the IP address. Let me change the IP address. NMTUA. Enter, enter. Remove. Manual, automatic. Okay. Back, quit, service, network, restart. Check the IP address. Now there's IP address 192.168.157.150. Tomorrow you joined as a cloud admin or joined as a Linux administrator, joined as a DevOps engineer. We have nothing to do with this server. What I required, I need IP address. I need IP address, credentials, login name, and password. You have a laptop. In your laptop, the putty is already installed. If not installed, you have to install it. If not installed, you have to install it. All this we'll discuss later. Once we start the Linux basic command, what is putty, why we are using putty, everything we'll discuss later. So I'm going to connect to this Linux server. What is the server contact? 157, 150, right. Click on open. In the real time, we don't know where these servers are. Maybe your Linux server running on AWS cloud, Azure cloud, GCP cloud, or maybe a server running on physical data center. We have nothing to do with, what I mean to say, we have nothing to do with where this server is. Why should I know that where this server is? Anywhere on internet. I require only the IP address, credentials, login name, and password. So what I feel that as an end user, what I feel that this is the physical server. But is it a physical server? No, right? It's a virtual machine. So that is the beauty of virtualization. So every VM has one IP address. You are working on SonarQube, you have IP address of this. You are working on Maven, you have IP address of this. All these VMs are isolated. Meaning what? When I'm connected to this VM, I'll bother about that. This is the Tomcat server. I don't know other VM having what applications are installed. I don't know what IP address, what applications are installed in another virtual machine. So that is called isolation. You don't want this, you can shut down it. Init 0 means shut down. It is going to shut down only this virtual machine. It is going to shut down only this virtual machine. That is called isolation. So in one physical server, we can configure 250 virtual machine. 250 virtual machine, nothing but 250 servers. Tomcat is one server, SonarQube is one server, web server, application server, number of servers are configured here. All these are servers. Right. So now coming to the, for example, if you go for physical data center, for physical data center, assume that I'm going to start a data center, a small data center, startup business. For a small data centers, I required minimum 500 servers. For 500 servers, I need a backup of another 500 servers. I told you yesterday what is the backup. Without a backup, if there is no backup for the application, if the server is down, the application no one can access. You need a backup for that. Database servers backup, application servers backup. So 500 servers need 500 more backup servers. So how many servers are required? 1,000 servers. You want to start the data center with 1,000 servers, you need at least minimum 5,000 square feet. Minimum 5,000 square feet. And you have to order the servers. Who are the vendors? IBM, HP, Wipro, Dell, all these are vendors. Take the quotation, whichever they're giving the best cost, best price. Then we'll contact that, we'll order these 1,000 servers. If you order these 1,000 servers, are they going to deliver within 1 day? They may take minimum 1 month to deliver these 1,000 servers. And these 1,000 servers you have to keep in one place, 5,000, 10,000 square feet. You have to take the empty space, 5,000 square feet, and keep all this infrastructure. It may take minimum 1 year to start your data center. Whereas, if I go for VMware, in place of 500 servers, how many servers are required? If I go for VMware, in place of 500 servers, how many servers are required? In one server, we can set up 250 virtual machines, right? One physical server, we can create 250 virtual machines. So for 500 servers, how many servers are required? Two physical servers. In place of 500, I need only two physical servers. For backup of 500 servers, again, we need two physical servers. With 4 physical servers, I can start my data center. That is the beauty of the virtual. With 4 physical servers, we can start a data center. How much area you require? I can take 2 bedroom. 2 bedroom is enough. 30,000-40,000. What cost we are reducing? We are reducing the premises cost, infrastructure cost, manpower. Here, how many manpowers are required? 15 to 20, 20 to 30 Linux administrators, 20 to 30 database administrators, network administrators, storage admin. But here, one database admin, one network admin, one OS admin, one storage admin, one VMware admin. So we can reduce the manpower, we can reduce your infrastructure. How much time to start this data center with 4 physical servers? It won't take more than 1 month. That is the beauty of virtual. But if we are talking about the physical data center, if I go for a cloud, how much time it takes to start the data center? I'm not going to purchase this. I'm not going to install operating system. I'm not going to install the database application. Everything I'm going for cloud service model, software as a service. If I go for software as a service, everything is provided by the cloud service provider, the infrastructure, software, platform, everything. Do you need 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? Not required. By sitting at my home, with laptop with internet connection, I can start my data center within 1 or 2 days. I don't require more than 2 because I'm expert in the cloud. That is the advantage of the cloud. So cloud always required virtualization. Whatever instances we are launching, we are creating, those instances are virtual machines. So don't think that those are physical server, those are nothing but virtual machine. This is about 10 years back, 350 virtual machine, but I don't know the current situation, current scenario, maybe 500 or more than 500. The latest version, I think 11.0. That is the beauty of the virtualization, and there is the advantage of the cloud. So no capital expenditure, no operational expenditure. So this is about virtualization physical server, and this is about virtual servers. So virtualization is a game changer in software industry and very big evolution in software industry. So when there was no cloud, 10 years back, we used to use VMs, virtual machines. Now we are using cloud. So VMware is a backbone. Virtualization is a backbone for cloud. So one more thing. This is called as a bare metal. What is the meaning of bare metal? Your EXS kernel which runs directly top of the hardware. So what do you call this? This is called bare metal. We don't require any operating system here. Bare metal means what? The kernel is running directly on top of the hardware. So in order to virtualize your hardware, physical hardware to virtual hardware, in order to virtualize your physical hardware to virtual hardware, we need a software that is called hypervisor. What is hypervisor? Hypervisor is a software to virtualize the hardware. So we need a software called hypervisor, which is going to virtualize your physical hardware to virtual hardware. So that is different between bare metal, that is VMware server, and VMware workstation. So this is about introduction for AWS classes. Monday onwards, we are going to start Linux fundamentals, Linux basics. When we start the Linux basics, then we'll discuss about what is this VMware, how to install this VMware, how to create the virtual machine, how to log into this virtual machine from Windows client through PuTTY. All this stuff we'll discuss from Monday. No demo classes from Monday, only who are registered, only those guys attend the class. So please register by today, tomorrow. Monday, the link going to be changed. The link will be forwarded to the guys who registered, not for those who did not register. So no demo classes from Monday. We'll start from the basics. Any questions, guys? Am I clear?
Yeah. Hi, sir. This is Naresh.
Yes,
Just
sir.
want to know, like, after Linux, like, what are the items we are going to cover? I mean, what are the topics as part of this course?
See, this is
So,
basically AWS, right?
yeah.
AWS required Linux fundamentals, Linux basics. This is for 1 week class. After 1 week, we will be continuing with AWS. This is for 2 months duration. AWS only AWS for 2 months duration. So after 1 week, from not this Monday, coming Monday, next Monday onwards, they're going to start AWS.
Okay. Thank you.
Any question? If you want to register, you can register for Linux administration as well. If you have Linux administration knowledge, it is added advantage. AWS the Linux admin, because we are going to work on Linux servers in AWS. If it is Azure DevOps, we are going to work on Windows. If AWS DevOps, AWS, we are going to work on Linux. If you have Linux administration knowledge, added advantage. Right.
So for AWS, would we be running codes as well, configuring things on our own machine, or like how is it gonna be?
I think he was there in the first class.
I was there in the second class yesterday.
Okay. In AWS, this is called AWS. I log into AWS. This is called instance. Instance nothing but a virtual machine. Instance is nothing but virtual machine. So click on this instance, launch instance. So this is called platform as a service. What is the meaning of platform as a service? They're going to provide the server, that is hardware. They're going to provide the hardware. They're going to provide the operating system as well. So you can choose operating system, which operating system you want. Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu. Even if you want to launch Windows, you can go for Windows. As it's up to you. So I'm taking Amazon Linux. Operating system is provided, and server t2.micro. This is one server. Instance nothing but a server, not a physical server. It's a virtual machine. So to create a virtual machine, we need a physical server. So physical server to virtual machine. That virtual machine we called as an instance. So t2.micro is what's the compute capacity? 1 CPU, 1 GB RAM. Throughout the AWS course, we are going to discuss only t2.micro. Why? Because it's a free tab. They won't charge.
Sorry to interrupt. My question was more in terms of like, would you be storing data in like, S3 bucket and then like, configuring things, like
Yeah,
seeing
that
how
will
the
be.
data flows?
All these
Yeah.
are default. Those are the services we are going to cover everything.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So, okay, we'll continue Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys. See you on Monday.